Hi, everyone. Welcome to Navigating the Next 12 Months, session on creating foundations for enduring success for you and your clients. I'll introduce myself in a moment. I want to start by telling a story, what I call a tale of two restaurant chains, Pizza Hut and California Pizza Kitchen. Now, just a warning, this is just independent research that I did out of some curiosity, and actually found an interesting story by looking at these two businesses that are very similar in their nature and their business model, right? They both serve pizza. They've both been doing this for some years now. Pizza Hut, obviously longer. A little bit about the Pizza Hut business. They're about 300,000 employees worldwide, 18,000 locations, and $1 billion in annual revenue. They were founded in 1958. California Pizza Kitchen, on the other hand, and I'm just going to call them CPK for short going forward, 14,000 employees. Okay, stark contrast to the 300,000 from Pizza Hut. 250 locations, so they're not even in the thousands. 563 million in annual revenue. They were founded in 85. So 563 million is over half of what Pizza Hut does, which was $1 billion, but with a fraction of their employees and their locations. In November of 2020, CPK filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And in February of 2021, Pizza Hut reported 8% same-store sales growth, marking the brand's best quarterly performance in 10 years. And that was since same-store sales rose 10% in 2010. So why? Why did this happen? CPK was so poised to just totally outpace and beat out Pizza Hut, right? Well, after looking into it, and this is based off of press releases that they, shared during going through the bankruptcy, CPK began actually leaning into ramping up its relationships with the Uber Eats, Grubhub, Postmates, DoorDash, etc., to pivot off-premises channels as a way to recover from lost dine-in sales during the COVID turmoil. And that represents, by the way, 78% of its business. And it was heavily reliant on mall locations. And that includes strip malls as well as, the bigger malls. Pizza Hut started doing delivery in 1986. And California Pizza Kitchen still to this day does not. At least they don't deliver themselves. And many of their locations, it's curbside pickup or dine-in only, and they still don't offer it. And so the lesson here, that I think becomes very prevalent is the same thing happened in every industry. Some businesses did really well, and some did not. By the way, CPK is still around. They mostly needed to restructure, offload a lot of debt, and so they're not completely under. You'll still find them around, but they were very similar business model and had a lot of recipes for success. Not no pun intended there with the pizzas, but they didn't start leaning into any other business models. They were basically a one-trick pony. And I'm not trying to beat up CPK here or anything. I'm just trying to point out that they didn't even start leaning into these alternative options, Uber Eats and so forth, that have been around for a number of years now, until they were forced to. And I think that is really a lesson in resiliency for all of us, that waiting around for the crisis or waiting around for success to happen isn't going to just materialize. Have to make sure that we're set up for potential future scenarios, and focusing on one thing, one model, one way of doing something may not always position you for the best possible outcomes. And believe me, there will be more crises. We're not even completely out of the one that we're in, but we're largely recovering. We'll talk about a little bit about some of that. I promise I won't completely make this all about the pandemic, because I know we've all been talking and hearing about that for quite some time and could use a break from it. So No worries there. A little bit about myself. My name is Jasen Stine. I lead training and education for the tax and accounting profession here at Intuit. I've been with the company and in the profession for over 20 years. I've published, a bunch of articles. I've lost track now. Counted today, CPA Practice Advisor, Accounting Lab, and I write for our own Tax Pro Center as well. And as I mentioned before, I'm not an expert in pizza, but I guess I figure I eat enough of it to be at least qualified to talk about it. So let's talk about the agenda for this session. We've broken this up into basically three parts. The case for proactive advising, right? So drawing on the lesson we learned, being proactive, and the case for proactive advising as it relates to your clients and why that's so important for your firm and for your clients. And we'll talk about how that drives to better results, and then how technology and tools play a role in all that. We'll also talk a little bit about firm culture and things like that. So, the case for proactive advising. With the changing professional landscape, we at Intuit recognize both the challenges and the opportunities for firms to transform from a compliance focus to a forward-looking advisory-oriented service provider and fuel your client success to constantly work to arm you with innovative ways to adapt and reach your goals. We also understand that compliance services are how clients come in the door. They need you because they need a tax return, or they need their books clean, or they're having payroll issues, and you're worried about getting in trouble, or one of a combination of those things. And the compelling feeling, the modus operandus, is to serve the need and then move on to the next client. But you could be increasingly impactful by turning this transactional engagement into a relationship and ultimately a subscription. And think about it like, you go into Costco or Sam's or BJ Wholesale or whatever those all one-stop shop types of places, and you go in to buy paper towels and you leave with the TV and new tires and a vacation package. And, it's not just that they're clever at upselling you. It's that they understand what you want in your buying behaviors and then offer these things that you may not have realized that you needed. And so that's really how we need to be thinking about these services. We've been talking about advisory for 20 plus years. And I know, we all have our different definitions of it too, but a lot of people mistake advisory for doing the tax return or doing the books and then giving some free advice as a added bonus of doing business. And frankly, the fact of the matter is, the clients don't actually care about the compliance work, as you well know, because they fight with you over the bill. But what they care about and what they don't realize that they need from you sometimes is your experience. I mean, you are the experts. I could think of no other perfect expert to be advising clients. And that is what you should be charging for. And we'll talk some about kind of how to structure around this better, so that you're better positioned to do this going forward. But it all starts by demonstrating value, and you can actually begin offering services like just tax planning, and think tax planning strategies too, not just tax planning where you're projecting tax liability. Yes, that too, but also strategies that they could take advantage of. Like, hey, if you have your kids work for this business or whatever, loose example, but it's just a quick one that comes to mind. This can save you in these tax saving ways. And what this does is it starts to establish that relationship in a different way. It turns it immediately from, and you just build it right into the engagement. Like, it's part of when you do taxes, you get this as well. It's part of what you charge for is your fee. And what this does is it establishes the way that you want to demonstrate your experience to your clients and establishes the trust that you're looking beyond the numbers, and then your clients will ultimately be open to more. And the other thing that, you really want to make sure that you're doing is not just asking about, updates for the client, the tactical kind of informational. Yeah, I got to know if you had a kid or you bought a new house or whatever, but talk about their goals and their plans and talk about the why behind them. That the key ingredient here is really connecting with clients and understanding their dreams and what motivates them so that you can then build the advisory services to meet their individual needs while maintaining standardized processes and workflows within your firm so that you can focus on these elements. So you're not alone if you haven't achieved your desired level of advisory yet. A study published in Accounting Today had some really interesting points here. 76% of firms desire to have greater than 30% of revenues from advisory, but only about 19% of firms are delivering at that level today. And I can absolutely confirm that with having done this presentation other places when we poll the audience. That's right about where people are. Some firms have gotten there. Awesome. Great for them. They're still growing. This is not, hit a goal and then you rest on your laurels, obviously. Some firms, have even gone to complete extremes and leaned 100% into advisory, sold off all of compliance work. Not exactly a strategy I would recommend if you're just getting your feet wet in this. And it's not for everybody. That I consider that more of a boutique or a niche kind of approach. But, everybody's fairly early on this journey. And so we're all learning together, even if we have been talking about it a long time. So let's talk about the technology landscape for a second. The changing landscape of our profession is without question overwhelming and challenging for tax and accounting pros at large as technology continues to automate more compliance work. And with the current environment, firms that had not yet adopted cloud technology were forced to do so, right? And this accelerated the profession's trend to move to the cloud, accelerated just about every trend at play. But this one in particular is worth noting. And tax and accounting firms are seeking out solutions that fit their needs by using a combination of purely online cloud technologies or choosing options like hosting solutions that allow them to work virtually while still using their favorite desktop applications. And with any online option, it's much easier to collaborate with staff and clients, whether you're working remotely or not. Additionally, there are abundantly more opportunities for software companies at large to build solutions that integrate seamlessly with each other, ultimately helping the firm's workflow and reducing time-consuming tasks. And as this continues, cloud adoption will continue to accelerate, especially in our current environment, because crisis breeds innovation. And what we're seeing also is that while things are coming back out and we're recovering largely from all the crisis, now we have a whole new set of skills that everybody is collectively more capable of taking advantage of. And so let's not lose that because I firmly believe that's a silver lining that's come out of this. What I see a lot of firms doing, though, is they're trying to fit cloud technologies into legacy workflows. And this is a huge, huge mistake. You will not only find yourself and your staff insanely frustrated, but you will end up ultimately quite upset with the software that you probably paid a good amount of money for. Cloud software is very, very different than desktop-based applications. They are designed with completely different workflows in mind because they don't just take a task and streamline that one thing. They streamline a series of tasks by rethinking how to more efficiently and effectively get the work done. So don't underestimate the learning curve and take advantage of the training. Most software applications offer training on how to use their software properly. Don't just use it and start plugging it in because you're gonna butt heads with the software and it's not gonna be pretty. And then everybody else will be upset. A good example of this, I'm not going to talk a lot about QBO. I know we're into it and got to mention it once, right? But many firms adopt QBO for the cloud capabilities, and then they expect it to work just like the desktop application. And that's the biggest problem that I see, and the biggest frustration that I see with people using QBO and not having a good time with it. And in many cases, when I peel back the onion on it, they didn't take advantage of the training, and so they're not aware of how it's designed to be used. And so they're just trying to use it in the same way that they use the desktop application, and they're frustrated. With client needs, I'm talking more about business client needs. The we here in this picture is you, accounting pros, right? As we talked about before, this isn't always how your clients will find or approach you, as it relates to looking for your advice and expertise and experiences. They know they want it. They know it's back there in their mind. Sometimes it'll come right out in the beginning of the conversation, but they will oftentimes come on because they need tax return or clean books. But advisory services should be quick to join the conversation. And our data shows that business owners are significantly more successful when they engage a trusted advisor like yourself. And it's integral that advisors and clients work together to monitor business performance and take action to ensure a thriving and healthy business. And it is crucial to emphasize the importance of advisory services, sitting down with a professional to best grow their business in a personal and productive way. And this was even further evidenced during the pandemic by the influx of clients coming for help with PPP loans and we're still dealing with that, navigating the stimulus, the legislation, and then not to mention the sheer need for your guidance, navigating the economic impacts of what they were dealing with, which was pretty much across the board. Firms that were already offering advisory services and operating in a cloud environment transitioned much more easily during this time. And they were better positioned and structured to help their clients pivot their businesses and their business models and work through those challenges. And you'll often hear the phrase when we're talking about this concept, your business clients' needs are evolving. I don't actually agree with that. I think sure they have in some ways, but in this area, they've always needed it. They've always needed your professional guidance. You just need to put more structure around it and standardize the process. Okay, so fair warning, this word is a bit of a word wall. I don't want you to sit here and try and read this whole slide right now. I'm going to call out some key things, and then this is available as a handout, and there's a link to the broader survey that this is based on. But after a decade of growth, 2020 was tough for all small businesses. But the small business economy is quite resilient. Incidentally, there were examples all over the U.S. of businesses adapting not just to survive, but to thrive. And looking back to the trends that we saw after the 2008 Great Recession, the rate of new business growth was more than 3 times where it had been in the years before. And that's according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data. And in September 2020, we commissioned a survey of about 1,600 current prospective business owners. And this is some of the results. Now, a few highlights here. According to the response, we can expect to see the most growth in 3 industries over the next 12 months: accommodation and food services, arts and entertainment, and recreation, and retail trade. The 3 businesses that actually probably struggled the most are actually poised for the most growth in the next 12 months. Again, crisis breeds innovation. We are finding that small businesses aren't just changing the way that they sell, but around 1 in 7 or 14% have gone as far as to adopt entirely new business models. And of these, 76% said that the coronavirus either somewhat or highly influenced the shift. And almost 1 in 3 small business owners surveyed said the current state of the economy had a positive or very positive impact on their company's innovation. Think about that. For more than half of these businesses, the innovation increased revenue by more than 50%, And a similar proportion, 28% said productivity was up. Productivity was up. Of course, that's not true for all small businesses. Many saying innovation and product have been adversely affected. But among those who intended to start a new business in the next 12 months, almost 1 in 5 said their decision has been significantly influenced by the coronavirus. And this is either through necessity, 35% said they needed a new source of income, or because they were looking to take advantage of new opportunities. As an example, 22% said that their current circumstances gave them an idea for a new product or service. And 28% said it accelerated their plan to start a business. Lastly, a couple last points. More than 2/3 of prospective business owners surveyed agreed that businesses born in a recession are more resilient, which kind of makes sense, right? And the survey also asked if they had any advice about how to start a business. And the top recommendation, confirmed by 69% of the respondents, is to write a business plan. And the good news here is that 77% of the future business owners intend to do this. Here's your perfect opportunity. And they need expert help. And they called it out. One of the first things that they reported they need to get help with, setting up financial systems correctly. And that's another thing that I think plays into this advisory story. Among that is, I've talked about workflow and freeing up staff and being efficient and automating, but it's also about tech stack and helping clients get the right systems in place. A lot of firms are leading into, consulting on tech stacks with clients as well. And some are offering as part of advisory services as sort of this subscription model, or they're offering as a separate line of business. You have advisory and then you have tech stack consulting, but everybody's, trying things out and doing it differently, but they need your help badly. So share with me in the chat if you have any other data points that you'd love to hear from us. We'd love to see if we could provide those for you in future articles or talks that we do. So if you have some other, I'd love to know this from Intuit about these data points. I can't promise I'm going to circle back with everybody's request, but I wouldn't mind gathering some inputs you want to share with me. And by the way, too, connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. But LinkedIn, you can send me messages on some of the stuff as well if you have an idea. You're up thinking about this talk at 3 a.m. because it was just that good, and you want to send me a note that says, you know what, Jason, I'd love to see the data on this. Love to hear that input. So appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about ideal relationships here. All of this starts and ends with how you think about your client relationships. And you need to start with identifying your ideal clients and your ideal relationships with them. Some of the leading firms that we talk to, as I mentioned before, go as far as cutting their transactional clients loose to focus only on their year-round subscription-based advisory clients exclusively. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. And in fact, it would be quite ill-advised to do that if you were just getting your arms around all of this. So what I've seen a larger majority of firms doing is they're considering their base of transactional clients as an incubation house that might not be ready for advisory services now, but they might be someday. And for this part of the firm, the incubation house, the compliance part of your firm, you're going to want to consider focusing heavily on automation to eliminate as much work as possible to serve these clients and relying on fixed fee structures rather than billing by the hour. You've got to move away from billing by the hour. It works in contrast. It works against your firm's ability to grow and serve more clients in more impactful ways. But also be careful with this because you don't want to end up driving two different, not the billing, the way that you think about the automation or the compliance work and automating that work. Because ultimately you really need to free up time. And we're all busy, right? There's no lack of work, but in order to be able to shift to advisory, you need to be able to free up what you're focusing on as it relates to compliance, which is the lesser valued work from your client's perspective, so that you have the capacity in your firm to serve them in this new way. And so as you're driving that automation and that efficiency, Just be careful that that doesn't end up driving the wrong culture in your firm, because you want everyone really focused on serving clients in a consultative fashion. So don't let driving efficiency and compliance work streams to overshadow that. But compliance-based clients can serve as this incubation house, and you're graduating those that are right fit into advisory later, so that you don't have to go all in on advisory right away. And nobody really is. So this all sets the stage for how you court and qualify new clients. And this leads us into identifying healthy relationship qualities. So I mentioned a minute ago, if you find yourself regularly being challenged by your clients about your price, this is the first clue that you might be in an unhealthy relationship with them. And I'm not here to be a relationship advisor, but it's some observations and what other firms tell me. Another clue is whether they act on your advice. And these two clues tell us a lot about whether a particular client values your services. And you don't necessarily have control over how they feel, right? So you have to ask yourself, is there something I can do to change their perspective? The answer is no. Maybe it is time to cut them loose. But before you do, consider a different approach to showing your value. Explaining it is probably not working. You have to show them. And it starts with how you structure the entire relationship. They must first have a clear expectation of what you will do. And it is not to produce a tax return or keep their books clean. What you do and what you are most capable of doing is using the data insights from those compliance-based tasks and collection of knowledge that you've amassed by working with hundreds of different clients to help them not just survive, but to create enduring success together. And so that all gets into identifying your ideal client. Once you have that mapped out and captured on paper, you'd be surprised getting something out of your head and capturing on something, a document of some kind, how that makes such a difference in your ability to achieve those goals that you set for yourself. But it's all about the right client fit and thinking critically about who is right for your firm, because you need to structure it in such a way that you can serve the clients in a standardized fashion, while delivering the most possible value to them. And if all they want is just the compliance work and nothing else, there's maybe a place for that, but it's not going to fit within your advisory model. And so those clients you're going and courting, those new clients, those are the ones that you're looking for, this new type of relationship. And then, of course, convert the ones that you have that make sense, but don't think that, and not everybody's going to fit, and that's okay. All right, so let's talk about driving better results or creating that enduring success. The first thing that you really need to think about is business model alignment to your goals. So if you're going to create enduring success for your clients, you're going to first need to clean your own house. And this starts with creating a vision and a strategy for your firm, and then setting goals and developing a plan for achieving them. And then most importantly, make sure that the entire firm is rallied around it all. And a lot of firms miss this one. During this process of sharing and rallying your firm around this, whether it's 3 of you or 1,000 of you, during this process, it will evolve, the vision, the mission, start there, get the strategy captured and start circulating that, start getting input. And during this process, you will come up with the new ideas necessary to align your business model to your plan and then your goals. And this includes how to price your services and demonstrate value. So the idea here is your vision and your strategy is the target. It's the ideal state. If resources and money and none of that was a barrier, what impact would your firm have on your community, the world, your clients, your employees, right? And then what is the strategy to get there? And think 5-10 years if you need to. And then you develop plans, and those are much more shorter term to help you get to those goals. Once you have all this done for your own firm, well, now you can do it with clients as well. And this is where we start. This is what we're talking about, where they need your help developing the business plans as a starting point for their business. And whether they're a new business or not, if they're an existing business without a plan, that needs more immediate attention, in my opinion. So now that you've documented the vision, because a lot of people have a strategy or a vision in mind, but it's not captured anywhere. And you want to make sure you capture vision, strategy, goals, and plans. Then do it with your own firm. And now let's talk about doing it with your clients, right? Now that you have this all in place, you can make sure, and by the way, make sure that your goals are SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time bound. So once you start getting goal setting, then you want to start incorporating like what is actually achievable. Then budgeting and forecasting can be done. And so you could work back from the goals to create a budget using your forecasting skills and the tools, and using historical data and the planned actions to set achievable targets on a quarterly, monthly, or even weekly basis. Typically monthly or quarterly is fine. And then you need to meet with your clients at minimum. Sorry about that. At minimum, once a month. Some more, some maybe quarterly, but monthly is really the sweet spot. And you're during this time, you're regularly demonstrating your shared accountability and flexibility with the client, helping them get to those goals. And then if the plan's going off track, adjust the goals if you need to, or help to cultivate new ideas to try. Use your network, your staff, your mentors, research. And you can bring this all to life. You have the ability to do these things. It's just a matter of doing them and putting the structure in place. And by the way, this is how it works in publicly traded companies, at least my experience with Intuit, right? We have stock price to maintain or hopefully increase. And this is done through driving investor confidence. Investor confidence is achieved by a clear and achievable vision and strategy, and then hitting goals on a quarterly basis. It's not just about, of course, it's important to have, but it's not only about superior product and having customer service. It's about having a clear plan that can be executed to hit defined targets. And believe me when I say, hitting targets for a publicly traded company is no easy task. Teams are often formed specifically to ensure that it happens, and they meet far more frequently than monthly for that matter. It's a daily grind. I myself typically sit on at least 2 to 3 growth teams at Intuit. And our shared goals are to drive a specific outcome that is tied to a goal and a strategic priority for the business. That's all, in service to that investor confidence. Now, obviously, that's just the financial side of things, right? On the flip side, if you have a crappy product and poor customer service, you're going to lose clients. So I'm not trying to say that that's more important. It's just not the whole picture. With impactful workflow integrations, many players in our profession are enabling your firms to automate compliance work and spend more time with clients and help them reach their goals. Let's talk a little bit about that. This is from the same survey I shared with you earlier. Let's talk about where your businesses, business clients and prospects are regarding technology, because ultimately we need to meet them where they are, right? Time-saving benefits of digital technology are instant, according to small businesses. Small businesses that increase their investment in digital technology in the past year say that the top 3 benefits are that it saves them time, makes it easier for them to reach customers, and increases their efficiency. No surprises there, right? But more remarkable is the fact that almost 1 in 3 of these businesses said that these benefits were experienced immediately. More than 3/4 said that their investment in digital technology paid off within the first 3 months. Spending on digital technology boosts business confidence and profit. Almost 1 in 3 of small businesses that increased their investment in digital technologies this year said that this is directly contributing to higher profits. more than 1 in 4 said the investment has helped them to feel more confident about the future. Almost 3 in 4 small businesses, this one's interesting. Almost 3 in 4 small businesses said that they value expertise in digital technology when hiring new workers. But despite this, 21% of them said that it is not an attribute that they look for in their candidates. Why? Because technology can be taught. And I see this in the accounting profession all the time. We are out there looking for, and I'll use the QuickBooks again. You see people posting ads for jobs that are open. I need a QuickBooks expert. I need somebody who's an expert in QBO. Great if you can find one. But that's the thing you're putting forward first and foremost. Whereas, can that be taught? And by the way, I don't think it's any secret that we're in a staffing crisis in pretty much every industry. And ours is particularly tough. I think it's every 2 CPAs that leave the profession what comes in. So we're not a growing profession as it relates to our ability to staff. So like technology is part of your staffing in your firm culture, and you hire technology to help you with the same things that your business clients do. And your business clients are already leading into technology. So it is important that you are there with them. Otherwise, you won't gain their confidence. All right, so let's talk about firm management. And I was just talking about hiring, managing talent. So, and collaborating and communicating with them. So I see this all too often. Firms looking for the wrong talent and vetting them for knowledge instead of cultural fit. And then after they're hired, they're not trusted to do the work correctly. And we put too much value on triple and quadruple checking data entry and not enough on teaching staff how to cultivate successful businesses. And this starts with the mindset across your management team, even if you are the entire management team. And it is perpetuated by process. And so managing the work, if you have clearly defined and documented processes that make it, this makes it relatively easy to manage team and individual performance. Obviously, there's a lot of nuances. I'm oversimplifying a bit, but hear me out for a second. If your culture is intentional, your plans are actionable, your goals are achievable, and your staff's goals directly align to your overall firm's goals, then you have all the right ingredients for your firm to succeed and to help your clients do the same. Everything ladders to the next. Go back to that. Vision, mission, strategy, goals, and plans. If all that's lined up at the firm level, then you can set that up for each individual player within the firm and make sure that it always ties to that. At that point, you want to hire talent that is aligned to that your values and your vision, and set goals for them that are in service to achieving the firm goals. Give them the training that they need to fill knowledge gaps and even skill gaps to a certain degree. But focus more on cultural fit and, relationship capabilities and the things that are needed to, achieve these goals and help clients in much more impactful ways. And then enable them to do what they do, what you hire them to do. And then you automate to eliminate, right? We identify the work streams where automation can help: bookkeeping, calendaring meetings, AI, bots, categorization, tax compliance, etc. And the technology then enables your staff to be increasingly efficient and effective in the roles. Another tip too that I've heard from several folks sort of experienced in the space is documentation of roles and processes, right? So you can have all the ideas about managing the work, but clearly defined and documented is an investment that you make for the future, so that you've got a playbook, and that playbook will evolve over time. But the idea is you've got to take the time to sit and capture it so that you can then deploy it. If you're operating under like loose constructs or guidelines, then everybody isn't rallied and they're not all swimming in the same direction. It also makes it easier to performance manage, right? You've got goals, and it's all aligned and they're reasonable. They're hitting the goals or they're not, and then you can determine coach up or coach out. Okay, so how many of you feel like this? And this is your client when you are trying to help them. Okay. I think I've kind of, beat it up at this point. They act like this when you're offering observations because you haven't set the stage for the relationship dynamic to operate this way. And so it's, yeah, I hear you. I know I need to do that or whatever. And then they just go right back under their hamster wheel. And so many businesses are just operating day to day, just keeping the business moving forward. And that's sort of been the message, right? The expectation of you got your business to run. You're in there working day in and day out. Let our firm handle your financial health, your books, your compliance work, etc. And that's all well and good, but it's a dated mindset. We've got to standardize the expectations differently around process, goal setting conversations, and a forward-looking cadence. And then use the technology and the tools that are available to you. We all know how to use them now. Online portals, Zoom, calendar invites. And there are companies building more that facilitate these interactions. And then make sure that you have consistent communication and a framework. A lot of firms are implementing checklists for the conversations based on where they're at. And sometimes it could be general to just about any client. Sometimes they'll customize it to individual niches that they might be focused on in their firm. One for, professional services, the other for other services, the other for real estate or finance or whatever. Because the businesses within niches tend to operate in similar fashions, you could certainly create some standardizations, checklists around those conversations. And by the way, too, if you set up a regular cadence with your clients, I heard one firm tell me they schedule a Zoom call once a month, or for some clients, like once every couple of weeks. And if that client gets busy and they don't make the Zoom call, they go ahead and just have the Zoom call without them. And then they send them the recording of it. And the clients report back that they actually really appreciate that. It provides that flexibility that they need because they had to get called away on some emergency or who knows what. And they went and listened to the advice and the overview of the report out of their financial health, after dinner or after they put the kids to bed or, just in the car, driving somewhere, right? You have easy capabilities, easy things in place that you could use to deliver that, that message, that helpful advice to them. And the work that you put into it leading up to that, means a lot. Traditionally it's been, here's your compilation report, and they say thanks, and then they set it down on their desk and they never look at it, right? Because they're not going to read a report. They need more than that. They need your experience, and that's not going to come in a report. It's going to come through conversation, and it's going to come through your relationship. Your tone needs to be really clear to your clients that you are personally invested in the success of their business. And here's a personal example of that on, how I tend to operate within my organization. I have internal partners like marketing or PR or those growth teams I talked about. And I'm reliant on them for various parts of driving my, my programs fall over. If I have a team that creates training programs and nobody markets them, nobody's going to show up. And so how do I influence, right? Influence happens when the goals align and the trust and confidence exists. So it's a constant conversation that I have with my internal partners that I'm making sure that my goals and their goals are one and the same, or that they at least help the other achieve one another. It can't just always be about what my goals are and they have to conform, or vice versa, right? We have conversations about how to make sure our goals align. And then that trust and confidence exists by regularly delivering and regularly showing up well. It's the same for you and your clients. I mean, can we get any more cliche than think outside the box? Right. But I think that's what this all has really been about, right? We need to move from, it's when you hear the word transformation, don't think in terms of like completely overhauling everything that you do. That's not what you need to be focused on. Transformation just simply is a word that designed to get you to think differently about how the profession and how we've been serving the clients in the past and what that needs to look like going forward. We're going to move away from delivering reports that no one reads, and we're going to automate compliance work. It's not going to go away. Compliance will always be there. But it should be this is how we partner with clients to develop their strategy and vision, help them achieve their goals and their dreams as business owners. And yet, by the way, we'll also get the tax return. That's how we need to be thinking about it. We need to flip the model and then leverage the tools to ensure that we're delivering on their goals and regularly reinstating your value and demonstrating tangible ROI. And as I mentioned early on, building tax planning and tax strategies into those engagements is a great starting point and an easy way to demonstrate ROI. Luck is what happens when preparation meets up. I actually usually kind of change this around and say success is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. At Intuit, we pride ourselves on self-disruption. And in fact, it's the hallmark of our company. Harvard has even used Intuit as a case study for innovation for years. If you do not reinvent yourself to more effectively help clients achieve their goals, your competitor will. Leading firms are already operating on these concepts that we've covered today, and successful businesses are achieving enduring success as a result of these principles. We are living in an age of incredible technology. Humans are more capable than ever in achieving amazing things. Everything we talked about today is not new, but the tools that we have available to us now and the continued innovations that we will see in our profession set the stage for all of us to reach increasingly new heights in the areas we choose to focus. So where are you focused? That's it for me today. Thank you, all of you, for being here. It was an honor. I hope that I've brought some helpful insights or some food for thought at minimum, and at maximum, given you some really helpful tools to deploy in your firm and help set up for success. So again, please connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Love to get new connection requests. Happy to chat, keep the conversation going. I wish you all wild success as we move into the future. And I look forward to hearing from you about the growth that you're helping your clients achieve. So thank you and take care.